Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the School of Self Worth. I'm your host, Nicole Song. Today, I get to do one of the best things that I can do on this podcast, which is to introduce you to one of my clients and share her journey with you. Today's guest is Jenny Zhang. Now, Jenny and I go way back. And when she first started working with me, her life really revolved around her work. Like she literally worked 18 to 20 hours. She'll share more about it in the episode with you. And now she is in a place where she actually doesn't let her life revolve around work. Work revolves around her life. She is in this new era where she truly calls the shots on her work. And this is what led her to start to look for in 2025 and get by the end of the year a new job that is the perfect fit in scope, in title, in compensation. Her story is honestly so powerful. Like I am just beaming from our conversation. So you don't want to miss what she has to share today. Before we get going, if you are an Asian American woman who wants to be both visible and valued in 2026 so that you get a promotion and a raise, DM me valued on Instagram at Nicole Song. I've got something over there for you. Okay, now let's get going. And I can't wait to share this conversation with Jenny. Jenny, hello. I'm so happy to have you here with us on the School of Self Worth.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday.
I am so you know having my clients on the School of Self Worth really is like my favorite thing to do on the podcast. And so Jenny is a long-term client of mine, and I'm like super thrilled that you get to come on and share your story because it's such a powerful one. And Jenny was sharing with me just before we started about how you were reflecting a little bit about the journey you've been on since we've worked together. And we were both reflecting back to the very beginning, and it was just like a different Jenny. And so I'm wondering if you could start there when we first met and why you decided to work with me and like what the stresses and challenges were that were happening in your life at that time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we date back, I think, to 2022 at this point. It's been a long time. I remember first reaching out to you after you came to our actual work event, where you talked about the concept of above the line and how to be happy under stress. And at the time, I was going through quite a bit of personal challenges and also work challenges. It was just stress in every aspect. And we started out working on a lot of the personal challenges I was going through in more of a private setting. And then I took a break. And I think what really transformed was when I really wrapped my head around, and my friends and colleagues around me was starting to notice the difference in me before myself. And when the calling for Jenny, go to the retreat in Hawaii. And that's when things really started. And I think that was the beginning of the mastermind journey for me, beyond that initial intro to the geotrend work and the intro to the clear callings. So it's been really, really interesting in observing and also hearing my close friends and colleagues and family feeding back to me of how I've changed, especially in situations and in scenarios where it could be stressful or upsetting to others that were experiencing things with me. And I've always wanted to be an anchor for my friends and family. And I thought I was doing a good job until I wasn't. But now I think they naturally are coming to me and seeing me as that source of calm and stability for them. So it's been a very, very interesting journey. I feel like a whole different person now after 2 years in master.
Well, amazing. Jenny, would you mind actually? I feel like I want to make sure we get things from the beginning. Tell everybody like the kind of work you do, like a little bit more about yourself, and then let's get into some of the nitty gritty.
Yeah, sure. I work in the healthcare and biotech industry. I was trained as a research scientist in oncology. I've been in oncology field for over a decade now, and I work very closely with oncologists in helping to develop new therapies for cancer patients, and particularly those that are experiencing that end of life, very late stage cancer types. And when I started working with Nicole, it was right at the peak of or epiphany of high stress, multiple programs undergoing both submissions to the FDA and also launching to make it available to patients at the time. And so my day-to-day has that underlying stress to it because get the um, I do get to challenge and face a lot of life death situations and conversations with doctors and physicians. But it's really been how do I maintain me as Jenny as part of that and really not lose focus on why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, and if I remember too, when you started, I can't remember if you had only 2 jobs at the time or 3, but something crazy like that was happening at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then a lot of what we were working on was just to get you, honestly, to sleep enough. Like, you were
Mm.
working to, like, 11, like, all the time, and I was like,
Yes.
"Jenny, you really like, we gotta do something about this." So what was your side of this when we were starting to work with me about, like, just even basic elements of, like, caring for your health and yourself
Mhm.
when work was, like, so all-consuming?
Yeah. I was reflecting on kind of how far I've changed and what I was sharing with you, Nicole, earlier was I've really changed from let work define Jenny and the value and who Jenny is. I think at the time when I started working with you, it was 3 jobs. I was probably working between 18 to 20 hours a day. I was fortunate in being offered those opportunities at work. Um, because my leadership trusted in what I could do. But I was also coming from a challenging personal time, rolling straight into this high stress, high demand work life. Uh, there was no work life balance. There was complete work life integration at the time, and I think when I started. The objective was, well, how do I stay calm when I am being asked for all these deliverables and demands and tasks until and over time we've worked on a lot of different goals over the last 3 years, and it's really been coming to the point now where I feel like job doesn't get to define Jenny. It's Jenny who defines the job that I do and the value that I bring to the community that I'm passionate about. Um, it's not that the nature of my job has changed, but I think definitely the amount of stress and how I manage scenarios and staying focused and prioritizing my work has really changed. That allows me to actually do better and bring better value to the patients that I serve, the doctors that I work with, and also the companies.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to watch you transition to be able to say, "Oh, like, I can make time for myself, do things that I
Mhm.
enjoy." And one of the pivotal things is, like, you actually came to my retreat, which a couple of years ago was in Hawaii. And
Yes.
do you remember, like, what were your big insights for yourself after that trip?
Yeah. Rainbow became a theme for me. So in the group now, I'm now known as the Rainbow Jenny, which was awesome. Hawaii's always been I think I've always had a very spiritual connection with Hawaii, even before that retreat, right? I would go to Hawaii every year, especially the Big Island, just because I felt like it was so secluded from the rest of the world, where I really get to connect with nature and the spirits. That's local there, and that was kind of my calling for when you reached out, say, Jenny, we're doing a retreat on the Big Island, and I was like, I can't say no to a retreat on Big Island. I love Hawaii, and I also it just felt right, even though I think I was only able to participate part of the trip just because I had planned an international business travel right at the end of it. So I think I went from Seattle to Hawaii for 2.5 days and then flew from
Mhm.
there to Europe to for a business trip. So, but I was really, really glad to have made a trip there because I had realizations on how I can really just blank my brain, even though there was going to be a huge event coming as soon as I left Hawaii. I was able to just let that go through the morning exercises that we were doing, just being fully immersed in person with these 9 other lovely women who were there, even though I didn't know any of them before I showed up, and also really really focus on working on who I am and what really mattered to me. outside of my work. And to that point, when I went to and landed in Europe for my business trip, it felt so clear. I was able to completely disconnect from the stress I had experienced before the trip to Hawaii to really being there and really focus on what I had to do at the time, and achieve that well, for the business trip after. So that was that immediate impact. And then from there on, I think I came back really thinking through, when I'm being asked and pulled in five different directions, what is the number one thing I really need to do right here, right now? And to be able to take one step at a time and achieving that. And that's actually been, um, a transforming experience in dealing with this high stress work life that I get to experience.
Well, you just said something really important actually, because you're like, when I'm pulled in 5 directions, because everyone is always pulled in a million directions, like no matter what kind
Mhm.
of job you have, and you do have a really intense job, as do I know many of the people who are listening. And then you're like, but you're not letting yourself get pulled in those 5 directions, right? You're not letting these
Mhm.
circumstances do that. And I feel like the first year, so Jenny's been in the mastermind for 2 years now, that first year was probably a lot of focus for you on being able to say nope, like I know how to prioritize and I know how to
Mhm.
make a bigger impact by
Yeah.
actually prioritizing and not getting stretched in a million ways. Because I think a lot of people, they actually dilute their value that way, right?
Mhm.
Because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to try and like hit all the fires versus actually just doing the thing that's most impactful. And like, what would you say for yourself? Like, what did people notice when you started
Yeah.
to change the way you worked?
Yeah, I remember one of my close, friend colleagues who had worked with me for 6 years at the time through two different jobs. One day we were, sitting in our meeting and being asked by our collaborating partner, by leadership, by other functions on delivering multiple different things. And it didn't help that, there was some negative feedback to the team, with how, some of our team members was performing. And I sat there and said, it's okay. Let's take this on one at a time. What is the most urgent deliverable that we needed to do? And it's okay to say no to some of the other requests where, either it really wasn't so it was really wasn't so urgent. There was no patient's life on the line for this. I think a lot of my colleagues and team members had started to hear me say, does this impact the patient? Does this impact the life for this? If yes, we want to address it as the first thing. And that goes back to, a lot of reflections I've had over that first year we worked together, right? Why am I in the business that I'm doing now? And what is, driving me to be willing to let work eat into some of the personal time at times when things get busy? And at the end of the day, it was my passion for, I'm helping someone to live a day longer. I know not every, business gets to say that, and I'm very proud and fortunate to be in a business where I get to say I've helped someone live a little bit longer. And that really comes down to how I really transformed, um, how I guide my team and also how I address urgent topics that are coming. If it is impacting someone's life, it is impacting, how someone else will impact someone's life, then we will address that. We will try to understand the intention behind the ask. Um, and if not, then let's sit down and have a conversation and truly understand, why is something being raised that requires our attention. It's not that we didn't address things at all. We just said no. And I felt much more comfortable saying no. It was a learning process that first year of, I didn't need to be, the person who said yes to everything so that people would like me. They actually liked me better when I was able to deliver beyond what their initial ask, because I understood where they were coming from and trying to connect with, my partners and collaborators.
I mean, that's so important too, because I think a lot of us come from this people pleasing background. And
Hmm.
then you're like, oh, actually saying no makes people like you more because you
Hmm.
have clear boundaries. And then you're actually somebody they can trust to
Yeah.
prioritize correctly, not just somebody who's going to be like, oh, I'm just going to, do everything under in my power and scatter myself everywhere and feel really stressed out.
Right.
Nope, we're going to be clear and calm and grounded and then
Yeah.
address what's the most important part first.
Yeah. And the other thing I notice is also, under high stress situations, whether it's at work or even, for me with family and personal relationships. Um, when everybody is under stress, it's so easy to escalate that stress level.
Yeah.
And to have just one person or one component in the system that is calm and that is okay to raise the hand and say, hey, wait a minute, can we just talk this out or can we think this through? That actually calms everybody down, and helps everyone around to refocus on what really mattered. So, sometimes we don't realize it, but it's that one no or hold on or wait that actually changes the dynamic for everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing, Jenny. You're just saying it so well. I love it's so fun to hear you talk about it this way. It's really powerful. So, well, and then what happened? So that was like really the first year of the mastermind. You had like this
Yeah.
huge transformation in the way you were grounded and holding boundaries at work. But then the
Mhm.
second year, things kind of, you got a little bit of a fun change because you
Yeah.
came to another retreat and then you actually realized you needed to do a few things. So what happened
I
then?
did. The second retreat I went to was on Whitby. I was unfortunately also only there for 3 days because I was coming back from a trip, and missed the first day of of um, of the experience. But I think that was also the first time that we as a group was doing a much more elevated version of
Mhm.
integration in Geotran than we had ever done before. Um, and to my surprise, I would have never imagined this. We kept on hearing the same theme repeating over and over that week, where Happy Face or whomever or in my intuition was telling me I needed to move. Which was not in my plans. It was not part of what I was considering. I was in my lovely little waterfront condo in Seattle that I really enjoyed, and um, and somehow that first integration I experienced were for some reason my goal was to move, and it just kept on repeating and showing up in different ways over the next couple of days, even the weeks to come in the mastermind. Was I was very skeptical in the beginning, because I was like, why would I? It's very costly to move. I would have to justify to my job of why I needed to move without a raise, without a new job, and going to an office that was more of a satellite compared to headquarters. But we kept on hearing it, and I think Nicole, you had convinced me to just follow that intuition and see what happens, and so I did. I was undergoing, so last year I was just for the benefit of audience, I had contemplated in leaving my last job and looking for a new job because there were some philosophical differences between what I believe my value is to the patients and to the community we serve, and where the company priorities had been located. My leadership was very supportive in me continuing to explore my potential within the company as well, and develop in other areas. So I did that, and I also started talking to other companies outside of our company in industry to understand what was out there. But we all know 2025 was not a good economic year. It was not a good job market. For there was a lot of layoffs, also in the biotech and pharma industry, and so I was skeptical. I was hopeful that my skill sets would be appreciated, but it was that plus a guidance, I would say, or intuition that I need to move. I was like, okay, I could be out of a job. I'm spending money on moving. I had good reasons to move for personal and also for a potential better network of industry collaborators. But it was financially a negative return from the calculations. I did sit on this decision for 3 months after the retreat, until I finally, I can't remember if it was like one of our one-on-ones or the group talk, group meetings where I was like, you know what, I'm finally going to do it. And so I did. I packed up my stuff and moved myself down to California in the Bay Area, and continued in reaching out to companies and recruiters, and talking about different opportunities. I think I ended up talking to 5 or 6 different companies throughout last year, of course, continuing to refine my story. And I think in that experience of going through so many interviews and talking through different companies, I finally achieved, coming back to our beginning of the conversation, how Jenny defines work rather than how work has defined Jenny over the last decades that I've worked, and really thinking through why would I be a good candidate, and why would I be the only candidate that really brings in um, the value for the job that I'm looking at, or the career I'm seeking. Um, and I think it also made making a decision around where I would go to and leaving the company much more clear. It wasn't an easy choice. I really liked the people that I had worked with, but it was also, am I realizing what I believe my value is at my current job, or will I have a better chance in doing that in the new job that I had finally landed? So here I am, first week, 2026, and I am in a new job, just starting on day 5. So,
So exciting. I was so excited to hear it. It's amazing.
yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many pieces to what you just said that are powerful. Like, really, when you're like, I realized that when I was looking around, what is my value? It isn't defined by how other people were valuing you, but you had to value yourself. And then that actually positioned you to get the job that you did, which is, and I, please, if you can share a little bit, but I was like,
Yeah.
a couple of days ago, I was like, Jenny, did you get a raise, a promotion? Your
Yeah.
title? Like, what happened with all of those pieces? Because those things really matter. Because a lot of times when you're like, okay, I'm not totally aligned with the company I'm at, and I really want to go see what else is out there, we can start to get a little bit, especially when you're looking for a while, like you were,
Yeah.
we can start to get into this place where we devalue ourselves. We're starting to be willing to take like lowest common denominator type of jobs or
Mm,
things that just to get one because it was
yeah.
a rough economy. And I really have to give you kudos, Jenny, because you didn't do that. Like you didn't take jobs or
Yeah.
opportunities that weren't valuing you. They weren't giving you the money that you wanted and the title that you wanted. Like you really held your ground. And I have to say, I think that can be really hard for people, both internally when you're trying to get a promotion, or also like what you were doing, which is going into an entirely new company.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of components to that, right, Nicole? As you were saying, um, and I will say at the end of the day, the bottom line has really been um, understanding the Jenny story, understanding who I am. Um, so, in various ways, what was happening in my previous job was I was valued as an employee by my leadership, by my management, um, to the point where just because the disease area I was working in, which is gynecologic cancer, had been deprioritized, they vowed they va- they showed their value of or appreciation of my skills and talent by moving me to a very high priority program in the lung cancer space, where in all honesty, I learned a lot. I really loved the team that I was working with, which made leaving harder as it would be for anyone. But my passion was with my gynecologic cancers community that I had been working with for the last 5 years, where I think a lot of the accomplishments and also the struggles I've had also defined who I am as a member of the company and also the community there. And so I've wanted to go back to that space. I felt like, talk about intuition, right? I felt like there was more I could do for that community that I hadn't done. And that was the biggest draw for me. And so in a lot of opportunities that came by that I had interviewed for, or where I mean, it was a mix of both me reaching out to my network and also actively seeking opportunities, and also my network reaching out to me, or outside network reaching out to me um, to offer opportunities in going through. And for many of them, I had spent hours in interviews and went quite far, but something just didn't feel quite right. Right. So they either some of them offer great titles, some of them offer great compensations, but not quite in in the disease areas I was interested in, or I had to really convince myself, can I switch from oncology to something outside of oncology? Right? Did I feel comfortable? Is that what I really wanted? There was always bits and pieces that I had second thoughts or doubts about through that process. And so until towards the end of last year, when one of my old colleague friends from two companies ago had reached out and said, "Hey, we are opening a role in the gynecologic cancer space where we're looking for a very specific skill set that is your skill set. Um, are you interested in joining?" And I didn't even ask about the title. I didn't even ask about the compensation. It just felt right. It felt like that was what I had believed that I needed to do, and I felt like I needed to continue to do. And so I pursued that opportunity. We had to talk about the level they were posting. We had to talk about the compensation based on what I was already making. I have to say, whether it was because it was folks who I had worked with. They had an appreciation for my contributions and whatnot. They were able to actually go back, ask for exceptions to both the level and the title, so that I would not be taking a lower title. I I am getting more for base salary, um, and they were able to offer sign-on bonuses that paid me out for what I was walking away from in my previous company. So it was everything I had asked for from a compensation perspective and more, um, and also that I get to work or go back to working on in a space that I really felt passionate about. So it landed really fast. It was very smooth as opposed to all the other conversations, which was kind of like something is glitching. It didn't feel quite right. Um, and so the luxury I had, I guess, was sitting on a decision that was, do I pursue this new opportunity that my intuition felt very much drawn to, and was it appropriate, and was it good to leave a team and a leadership that I really loved and felt belonging to. And so, well, now we know what the choice is. We'll see what the future brings.
Well, I loved so many of these things because as someone who was working with Jenny through this whole period, there was a lot around worry and fear, especially around like the compensation, because you were making this big move and you're like, is this just going to take me back, set me back because I'm not going to get what I want and what, it's time for. And especially going to California, which is like a higher cost of living than Seattle. I mean, it's hard to believe in Seattle, but yes, right? It's higher cost of living there and all of those pieces. And then you really did it. And then not only that, then you got compensation beyond like what you were even going for in terms of like them, rewarding you for bonuses and other pieces and really all of it adding up. And so anyways, I'm just like, I'm celebrating you first because I was on maternity leave for part of this and I was like, wait, what happened, Jenny? Tell me more. Because I was like so excited to hear it. Because truly, and truly like what you did is you just to recap kind of what happened is that she really her intuition told her what to do was like make the move and like find a new job, and then you did both of those things, but you also really exhibited a lot of patience to not just jump at opportunities that weren't the right fit. You waited and you valued yourself because you were like, I know that the right thing exists out there. If I just am patient, that it will come. And then it did came, and it like, really the ROI on that was like huge for you.
Hmm.
And so I just want people out there to listen and understand like that is what it takes. Cause sometimes we're just like, okay, like I want it to happen right now. It has to happen exactly how I think it's going to. But
Yeah.
you were rewarded for doing that early work of de-stressing yourself and then really valuing yourself and understanding that your work was not your life. And then you being able to do that is actually what brought you to a place where you could actually get a job that is compensating you so well, it gave you the title that you wanted, and you're like, and also really a perfect fit in terms of the kind of work you want to do in an
Yeah.
area that's like not even valued, like you said, like it was previously. So
Mhm.
I just hope you can hear that, Jenny, because I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like it's so cool to hear it from you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I remember one of your earlier episodes around surrendering, right? And we've talked about this. I think one of the biggest lessons through this year was also surrendering to me, because we're talking about like I wanted things to happen in a certain order, which is find a job and then move. And it should have been done in the first quarter of 2025. After I've accepted, I had to move. Um, but that was not what was meant to be, apparently, because I tried to start looking for a job before I made the move and it wasn't going anywhere. It was just creating stress for me. It was creating stress for my personal relationship as well, because I was like, why isn't things going? Like, it shouldn't be that bad. And this is when the market wasn't as bad. This is before all the
Mhm.
layoffs was happening. I was like, this makes no sense. It shouldn't be this hard. Um, and then I surrendered. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna move because this is what was the right thing to do. And I was also at the point in personal relationship where I felt like moving was the right next step, um, in helping me to see that also more clearly. And so I did, and I had to have faith. I had to surrender to faith and believe that when the right time for the right job to come will come. That
Mhm.
was a big piece, and also listening to some of our past podcasts and group conversations that happened to me too.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where the order wasn't the one that you wanted, but it was just
Hmm.
the order that had to happen, right? It had
Yeah,
to you had to
yeah.
move so that the job could come. And sometimes we're like, I don't want it to be in that order. Like, I don't
No.
want life to happen this way. And
Yeah.
then that's the way it has to go for us to get the
Mhm.
things that we're actually ultimately desiring. But now you
Yeah.
get to start 2026. And now you get to focus in a totally different way because you're in the new place, you can focus on your relationship and then you also can focus on this job, and now
Yeah.
2026 gets to be a big year of like living into all these things you've been working towards.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It definitely. I think there was a lot of. I think my some of my lessons, as we were saying, surrounding, but also just being clear of what I really wanted. I remember when we first started working, I didn't know. Like there was. I thought I was clear on what I wanted back in 2023. Um, I was not. It was not what I really wanted. I was letting work and accomplishments and tasks define what I
Mm.
had wanted, and that shift to um, here's what Jenny truly wants, and unless I'm able to make movements in that direction, I have to be patient and keep being persistent with pursuing what I thought was right. That also matters. But it's that clarity that saved me from going sideways. But really in having that beacon and being able to follow that general right direction.
Well, you're also
Some of my
speaking of
yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You're also speaking about something that I also feel like is essential because you are saying, well, I thought it was enough. And a lot of times
Mhm.
we go into this place of like, well, shouldn't I be grateful? Like, I have a good job, I'm paid well, I'm doing the
Yeah.
kind of work that I like. It's fine.
Mhm.
It's good enough versus us being able to. And I really, Jenny knows this in our world, we call it plan B.
Mhm.
And it's not the plan you're actually supposed to be in, which is plan A. But plan B seems really good. Plan
Yeah.
B has all the things you're provided for. Like everyone else in the world is like, oh, wow, you have a great job. You're so lucky. Everything is going really well in your life. But you know, somewhere like inside of you that it's not plan A. And it seems
Mhm.
to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth on this, Jenny, but that retreat in Whidbey is where you really actually saw plan A.
Yeah. I would say that was the beginning of
That was the
seeing
beginning
plan
of it.
A, right?
Okay.
I think so many of us that are privileged in life, because we've been always brought up being grateful, and I think that's probably, I mean, that's true for everybody, but I think particularly for Asian Americans or even Asians, like we've always been brought up by like being grateful that you have a roof and you have, you're being fed, there's food on your table, and you have loving parents, right? Because, but I think being comfortable where we are and appreciative doesn't necessarily conflict with really truly understanding that there could be something even better that we deserve. Because sometimes we've always been taught to be humble to the point where it's like, I'm already getting things I had asked for. I was getting um, raises and promotions that I had asked for or even didn't ask for in my previous job, by just accomplishing um, what I was doing and trying to put in every effort that I had done. And I was grateful. I should have been grateful for that. I think the retreat was the beginning of actually realizing, um, just because I was already having and living a very privileged life, does that mean that I am really realizing who Jenny truly is, right? Because sometimes
Mhm.
that could be deceiving. And I think that that realization over the last year has really brought me to where I am, where I get to define, even if I already have a privileged life, it doesn't mean that I don't deserve something else that I felt truly passionate, that I can really put in. Um, 100% for 120% effort, and still like some of um, the professors and the experts I work with, they love their jobs and what they do so much in their career that they don't feel like they've worked um, in their lifetime, right? They are more than happy and they're so passionate about what they do. And I think that was a big realization for me is, well, can I also do that? Can I also um, try to achieve something more so that, yes, it's a job. Yes, it can be very demanding and stressful, but what I get out of it is who I am, um, and what I bring as a legacy. That actually makes it so much more worthwhile.
Yeah, it's so well said. Like, really, what you're speaking to is that level of fulfilling your potential and
Mhm.
actually really being like all who Jenny is here to be. Because she's not here just to like make some money and work, like,
Mhm.
which I think sometimes we think, well, like you said, let's be humble about it. Let's be grateful for what we have. And there's this level of like, well, who are you really here to be? And then
Yeah.
what is possible if you actually step into that? I think sometimes people, when they work with me, they're kind of nervous. They're like, well, what if I don't go for exactly what I thought I was supposed to go for? Like if I go for the promotion and then I realize I don't want the promotion anymore, am I somehow giving up? Like, am I somehow not ambitious? And I always think of it as like, actually, no, you are more ambitious because you are actually stepping into who you are here to be. And that is like, that's the kind of stuff that changes the world, right? And
Yeah.
that is so powerful. And yet is also can be very scary, very nerve wracking, and take a lot. Like
Yeah.
I will say, like this last year, Jenny, you've had to be really resilient in what you're
Mm.
trying to do.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to watch like every step because I was like, I know she's going to get there. She's just got to
Yes.
keep being patient and following the steps. And then here
Yeah.
you are. And now we get to be like, wow, she did it. So awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely felt like a miracle because there were times where in my last job we were undergoing some reorganization of the team, and there was opportunities for a promotion or at least putting my name in there for an opportunity for an upgrade from where I was. And I remember having this conversation with a friend on the same team and a colleague, and whom I've always seen as a mentor, where the two of us we're working very closely together, and both of us had this opportunity to put our names in, and she was asking, are you going to do it? I was like, no. She's like, how come, right? Like, wouldn't you want an upgrade from where you are right now on the team? You have a shot on goal. I was like, that's true, but I don't think that is um, really what I want to do and how I want to leave a legacy with the company and with this group of people that I had worked with. So when my manager came and asked if I wanted to put in my name for that open role for the next level, I said no, and I think he was quite shocked at it.
I mean, that is shocking kind of on that level of like, well, doesn't that look better? Like it
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
better to do it. But like, I loved it because that was the Jenny who's defining work, not the work
yeah,
defined Jenny who made that
yeah,
decision, right?
yeah, yeah,
And how powerful is
definitely.
that? And
Yeah.
doesn't it feel like, how does work feel for you when you're doing it from this perspective instead of work defining you?
Um, I feel like I think on very on different levels and how I feel that like for example, it's my first week on the job. I haven't fully onboarded onto I'm still working through the HR and the IT stuff. Um, and I've had a colleague who reached out to ask me for my opinion on something that was more work related. I think the Jenny who defines work was able to get on the phone, speak with my colleague, and really trying to understand um, what where we were coming from and where we are trying to go as a company so that I could give my opinion and feel confident in the opinion to help guide the team on which direction to go. Versus had it been the work that defined Jenny, I probably would have gone through the logic of, okay, what is my scope? What am I supposed to help answer without that bigger picture? And having so I think in my role I spend a lot of time thinking about the long term and the bigger picture now, and I'm able to do that with much more ease and confidence, even if I didn't have all of the details that would have been required to make certain decisions. And that's been a huge shift for me from work defining Jenny, where I'm a very detail and data oriented person. I want every single piece of information before I'm willing to make a decision, to now I'm actually able to exemplify leadership and drive actions in a team because I don't need all the details and still feel confident in what I'm giving as direction and guidance is the right one. And that confidence percolates right to the rest of the team.
That's awesome, Jenny. I mean, everything about this makes me so happy. I mean, really, I'm celebrating you because it's so profound, these kinds of shifts because they feel so internal. Because, like, you have both the internal ones that resulted in external shifts, but that's really how it works. Like, when you make those changes inside, then you start to see it happen in your life. And you're just such a beautiful example of doing that work, being so persistent, being so resilient, and staying committed to yourself. Because that's really what I see is commitment to yourself to get to the other side of it and then continuing to do the work. I mean, we have a whole year of the mastermind together to continue doing all of this. And it's just
Yeah,
so awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just incredibly proud of you, and I just love being able to share your story with everybody because you've just put in so much work and done a beautiful job, and I'm celebrating you in all of the different ways. So thank you, Jenny, so much for being on the podcast and sharing your story with us. Yeah, keep an eye on Jenny. She's up to really big things in the world.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be able to share part of my journey. It will continue. We'll see where 2026's masterminds will bring, but I definitely feel, um, in hindsight, that I have gone through so many levels of elevation um, through this process. And when I was in the midst of it, like there are times where I was like, Nicole, what am I doing? What am I achieving? It didn't feel clear. The sometimes the changes are minute that I don't realize myself. And I've been very lucky in having a group of friends and family who will call it out and tell me when things are changing to help me reflect better too. And so having our group of masterminds, women, and just that network where we're so in tune with this also is really, really helpful.
Mm, so good. So good. Amazing, amazing, Jenny. Thank you so much for being on, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye,
All right.
everyone.